Hi guys, this is Anantello, and in this video I will introduce you to task 1 of the IELTS writing test and explain how it should be approached. So we will cover the different types of visuals, the report structure, how to describe the main trends, and how to write the intro and overview paragraphs. In task 1, as we mentioned before, you will receive information in visual form that could be any kind of graph, a diagram, a flow chart, a pie chart, or anything. You will also receive a statement explaining what the visual is about. You will have to summarize the information in your own words and using at least 150 words. In task 1, you will have to select, organize, and compare information. Describe the stages of a process, describe an object or a place, or explain how something works. Types of visuals. Now, I'm quite sure this ain't the first time you see a visual. We're quite used to looking at graphs in textbooks, news websites, research papers. Data about many topics is given in visual formats, such as sales reports and population statistics. Types of visuals include bar chart, pie chart, a line graph, table, a diagram, a flow chart, and a map. Now let's look at how you have to organize your report. You need to organize your information into a logical order, and for that, you will need these 4 main paragraphs. The first paragraph is the introduction, which contains a description of the graph. For this paragraph, you can paraphrase the statement provided by IELTS, and be careful not to copy it. Paraphrasing means rewriting the statement using your own words. The second paragraph is the overview, which is very important as it contains all the key features of the graph, or the main trends, such as the highest points and the lowest points. The third and fourth paragraphs are the body paragraphs, and they contain the detailed information. You might be tempted to write a conclusion, but please don't. Actually, it's a bad idea to write a conclusion paragraph in task 1. Since this is a short report, make sure you don't repeat your information, so if you write a conclusion, you will have to repeat some information. Let's look at a few examples. This is a bar chart. From its title, we can see that it's about the population of Asian elephants. It has 2 axes. The vertical axis, which shows the number of elephants, and the horizontal axis, this one, that shows the countries in which these elephants lived. The bars of the chart have 2 different colors. They represent the 2 years that data is given for the population of elephants in these 9 Asian countries. Now let's look at the pie chart. We can learn from the graph's title that it talks about the origins of English, as in where the English language has come from. You first need to understand that in a pie chart, the whole pie represents 100% of something. Like in this case, it's 100% of the English language, which according to the chart is borrowed from many other languages. The size of each piece of this pie represents the influence a certain language has had on English. Line graphs are used to show changes over a period of time. This one here demonstrates how many people visited those 3 museums in London between June and September 2013. Like the bar chart, this graph also has 2 axes. The vertical axis shows the number of visitors, while the horizontal axis shows the period of time. The different colors of the lines represent the 3 museums. I'm sure we all know what a table is. This table here gives information on consumer spending on 4 categories of products in 5 different countries in 2002. In diagrams like this one, we see a combination of words and pictures. This diagram is showing us how steam is produced using a gas-cooled nuclear reactor. Diagrams normally progress from left to right or from top to bottom. They show us the process of how something works or how it is produced, so expect to see arrows alongside words and pictures. This flow chart shows the typical stages of consumer goods production. You need to follow the arrow here from top to bottom. The second flow chart is about the production of molten steel, which we need to read from left to right, according to the arrows. The last type of visual is a map. In this type, you may be asked to describe the location of certain places in relation to others, or compare several maps and the developments that took place over time. This example shows the changes in Denham, a village and civil parish in England, between the years 1986 and 2016. So far, we've seen typical examples of the types of visuals you can expect in task 1 of the writing test. In this part, I'm going to talk about the questions for task 1. Now, task 1 questions always have the same parts. First of all, the question here reminds us that we should spend 20 minutes working on this task. And in this last part here, it reminds us that we should write 150 words at least in order to answer this question. Second, you are given 2 paragraphs, the first of which gives you a statement about the visual that you're going to describe. Let's read this one here. The diagrams below show the stages and equipment used in the cement making process and how cement is used to produce concrete for building purposes. The next paragraph tells you what you're supposed to do, and it contains 1 or more verbs. In this example, you are asked to summarize the information. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. The word summarize suggests that you don't need to write about all the data in the visual. You need to select and report the main features only. You also have to make comparisons where relevant. In this case, we can compare between the cement production process and the concrete production process. Let's move on to introducing the topic. We will use 1 sentence only to introduce a visuals topic, and this is the first thing you should write to answer a task 1 question. Let's look at this example. The pie charts below show the average household expenditures in Japan and Malaysia in the year 2010. Here is an answer written by a candidate. In this case, the candidate has directly copied the description word for word, but this is wrong. The examiner will ignore any sentences copied directly from the question, and these words will not count as part of your 150 words. Therefore, you need to paraphrase the statement given in the question and use different words. Here is a good example of a paraphrase. The 2 pie charts give information about the proportion of money spent on various household necessities in Malaysia and Japan in 2010. Here the candidate has used different words to introduce the pie charts. This shows the examiner that the candidate has understood the information correctly and that they can use a variety of vocab and grammar. Now let's take a look at another example to better understand paraphrasing. The question says, the chart below shows the percentages of males and females of different ages employed in Syria. Now think about ways to paraphrase this sentence. Now instead of chart, we can say graph, or just use the type of visual given in the question. In place of shows, we can use illustrates, gives information about, or gives an overview of. We can also replace percentages with proportions, and males and females with men and women. We can also replace different with various. Ages can be replaced by age groups, and the verb employed can be replaced using the verb work. And of course, you need to make necessary adjustments such as articles, prepositions, and helping verbs. Here's the final product. The graph illustrates the proportion of men and women from various age groups who are working in Syria. In task 1 of the writing test, it's very important to analyze the visuals to identify the key features. Missing a key feature can affect your score. So when you look at a visual, start by answering the following questions in your head before you start writing. Or you can ask for an extra answer sheet in order to jot down a few notes. Question number 1. Which places, people, or things is the information about? 2. How many different things are being compared? 3. What units are used to show the amounts, numbers, or proportions? 4. What period of time does the visual refer to? This last question will help you determine which verb tenses to use, past tense, present perfect, or even future. Let's analyze the following example. First of all, which places, people, or things is the information about? In this case, the pie charts are about the kinds of energy production in France in 2 years. This also answers the second question. You have to compare the percentages of energy produced from these 5 sources in 2 years. We also need to check what units are used. In this case, the chart shows percentages. Finally, we need to identify what period of time the visual refers to. Here, the chart covers the years 1995 and 2005. So the verb tense we should use is simple past. Now we have to take a closer look at the chart in order to identify the key features and the overview. The overview shows the main trends, while the key features are other important details. Remember that in task 1, you don't have to write every single detail. Let's go back to our example. Overall, we can see in these pie charts that the biggest sources of energy in both years are gas and coal. We can also see that nuclear energy and other energy sources generated the least amount of energy in France. In addition to that, there was minimal change in all kind of energy production over the 10-year period. These details should be written in the overview paragraph, which comes right after the intro. Let's read the overview paragraph for this example. Overall, in both years, the most significant sources of energy were gas and coal, which together accounted for over half the production of energy, while nuclear and other kinds of energy sources generated the least amount of energy in France. In all types of energy production, there was only minimal change over the 10-year period. In order to find the key features, ask yourself, which information is the most important? And what are the biggest or smallest changes shown in the graph? In the previous example, the first key feature is the almost 1% rise in energy produced by coal over the 10-year period. The second key feature is the slight increase of energy generated from gas between 1995 and 2005. A third key feature is an approximate 5% growth in energy produced from nuclear power and other sources. The fourth and last key feature is that petrol was the only source of energy that decreased in production. We will be using these key features to write the two-body paragraphs in our next session, during which we will learn how to describe the data provided in visual form. I have left you an assignment in the link, which is in the description. And as we've mentioned before, we have partnered with English Skill Up for Syrians, and their team of volunteers will be giving you feedback on your essays. So kindly send your answers for task 1 to this Facebook group and they will take it from there. Have a good day. Bye-bye.